Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for my continued followers, if you find this information informative, please share it with people that you think will find it interesting to listen to. And you've heard me talk about in my previous videos about 5 or 6 things that are really tearing down the moral fabric of America, and that's homelessness, joblessness, the opioid crisis, mental health issues, this migrant crisis, and inept inner city public school systems throughout our country. And I want to talk about our inept public school system. I want to do a particular video on how difficult it is to be a teacher in today's time, the kinds of kids that are attending grammar school, middle school, and high school. Are they prepared, especially kids of minority descent and of color? And so this one is all about teachers versus Gen X, and how there are a few things that are contributing to the dismantling of our inner city urban schools. Of course, we know government funding is a major issue. If you go throughout any of these major cities throughout our country, whether it's St. Louis, Chicago, Philadelphia, there are tons of dilapidated, empty, vacant middle schools, high schools. Some of it has to do with the progression of African Americans over the last 40 years economically to move to the suburbs. There's been a little bit of that, but a lot of it has been the poor, vacant, dilapidated urban cities. A lot of that is due to the federal government and the state government removing the financing and the funding out to your suburban public schools. And teachers versus Gen X. There's a few qualifying characteristics that we're seeing. You're seeing bad parenting. Social media has replaced us as parents. A kid can push a button on their phone or on their computer, and they can learn anything under the sun, whether it's good or bad today, versus in the 70s and 80s when you had to sit down with the father, grandfather, mother, grandmother, uncle, to find out things on nurturing and how to evolve as a human being. And then today's time, all you have to do is just push a particular button. Social media has replaced every parent in damn near every household. And then there's zero discipline, which goes along with bad parenting. Too many homes in our inner city markets have single mother domains where there's no father, there's no male mentors for young boys or girls. Mother has to work. There's very little discipline and oversight being taken place at the homes, and these kids are going to school unprepared, underdeveloped in reading skills and math skills, even as early as 6 years old, preschool, first grade, second grade. And the system does not want to pay teachers and appreciate them as professionals. That's also part of the usurping of the funding that went from the inner city schools and teachers and administrators out to the suburban schools. Part of a professional teacher's appreciation is their salary. And nobody wants to pay teachers. And you have to understand that teachers play a multitude of roles for these young kids. As I said, many of these kids are coming from single parent households. Very few fathers are in them. And these teachers have to be parents. They have to be social workers. They have to be teachers. They're dealing with 40 or 50 students per class with 6 classes a day, that's 300 different kids each and every day. That can become very cumbersome, mentally straining and physically straining. And these kids are having a multitude of issues. There are more kids that are diagnosed with ADHD today than ever before. They can't sit still. You have behavior problems. So there's so many things that lead up to these kids even having an opportunity to sit down to learn. Many of these kids can't even sit still because they've had no discipline at home, and let alone if they have other qualifying factors or disabilities that are associated with them not being able to stay abreast in their own age group and grade with the rest of the kids. But we have to be a greater support system for our teachers. Teachers, like in the state of Texas, there are more teachers that are leaving the field than ever before in Chicago, Texas, Philadelphia, New York. The average teacher for middle school or high school is about $45,000 a year. As I said to you, they're seeing 40 and 50 kids per class with 5 or 6 classes. That's about 300 kids a day, 5 days a week. And they don't have any time for planning and development. Teachers are working up to 54 hours a week, 40 hours at work, and then another 15 to 20 hours working on lesson plans and other ancillary things that have to take place in order for them to be the best teacher they can be when they go to school. And you're seeing a situation in the system where the better teacher that you are, the more work that the system is placing on them. And that's not fair. We need to have good teachers all across the board, and they need to be compensated at a commensurate rate with the cost of living increase, and not look at these teachers as just overpaid babysitters. Like I said, the best teachers get more work, and the more difficult students, they're getting the more difficult students. Many times you're seeing a scenario where the parents of these kids are just as immature as the kids. The parents are even worse than the kids. You have parents that are coming to school, they don't make their kids accountable for their actions, for bad behavior. And you even have parents that are going to school and wanting to fight the teachers and the administrators, which is leading a lot of these teachers to leave the field. Mentally, they have checked out. Physically, you're seeing a lot of teachers with high blood pressure, anxiety issues, and even mental breakdowns. Teachers' salaries and pensions are terrible. It has not increased over the last 30 years with the cost of living increase. These teachers should be making $100,000 a year easily. Teachers are not respected as professionals, and we have to remember there wouldn't be any doctors or lawyers if it wasn't for teachers first. And in order to have a viable society, country, nation, there's several pillars that you have to have. You have to have a strong school system, a strong medical system, a strong police force, a strong fire department, strong hospitals. There are several services, and the academic arena is one of those pillars that has to be sustainable for you to have a great future as we are training these kids to be leaders in the community. As I said, there would be no doctors or lawyers if it wasn't for teachers. There would be no police officers, no firefighters, no presidents of the United States. And we need to make our school systems where the bulk of the kids in our country are going to inner city schools. That's where the bulk of your population is being educated. And these kids are coming from terrible homes. They're bringing these inadequate, hyperactive behaviors to the classroom, and that can be a disruption to other students trying to learn. You have many kids that are not having great meals at home, and school provides at least 2 healthy meals for children that are poor. But we also have to change the dynamic of what our inner city schools look like. They look like prison systems. Kids are going through metal detectors, you're seeing bars on windows, and it's creating a framework that is preparing children, instead of becoming scientists, engineers, doctors, and lawyers, they're preparing them to be institutionalized just by the outlook of how these inner city middle school and high schools look. Who wants to go through a metal detector, security guards, fights all the time, students fighting students, bullying, students fighting teachers? There's no parameter or border. The level of respect is gone. You have students in these urban cities that are fighting teachers like they would fight a kid. There's a total lack of respect for your elders. There are way too many single mothers that are raising these kids. We need to have more male role models and mentors to go back and help these young men and young women develop into great adults. An educated society makes society a better place. And we need to stop seeing our teachers in these urban markets as glorified babysitters. The student teacher ratio, as I said to you, you got one teacher for 50 kids, and they're seeing 5 different classes. That's 250 to 300 kids a day, 5 days a week. You're talking about interacting with 1,000 kids, or 750 kids, 1,000 kids a week. That can be mentally and physically draining. So we have turned our back on our inner city school system. America has usurped and removed all of the funding and the ancillary services that are needed, even for after school activities, the arts. All of that is gone. Our student teacher ratio is out of whack, and it is causing a drain on our complete system. And the more that we have a higher level of population of kids that are uneducated in the city of Chicago, St. Louis, these major cities, you're having these urban kids that are 2 and 3 grades behind on their state math and English exams. That is providing a disservice to not only the children, but to our society as a whole. We're going to have a large influx of uneducated, unprepared, undisciplined individuals that are going to be entering adulthood and are not going to be prepared for the workforce, for adult issues, conflict resolution, how to think through things, to have a certain level of comprehension on ideas or reading and math. They are behind and delayed. And so these kids that are not prepared from school are going to go into the workforce, whether it's Walmart or Target or anywhere they're going to work, and following basic instructions and dealing with people on a personal level and interacting professionally. They are going to be unprepared, which is going to create more violence in the schools when they become adults, in the streets, at work. You're seeing not only is the school environments unsafe and unhealthy, but once these kids become adults, they're taking these same bad behavior to the workforce and fighting their boss, their co-worker. So you're seeing a deleterious effect that's going all across America that starts in the home and then in our inner city urban grammar schools, middle schools, and high schools. And we need to do a better job at getting these kids up to standard. We're way behind across the entire globe when you talk about other countries and where our children are testing at in math, English. Kids of color are not going into the STEM programs. That is way too hard and too difficult. Everybody wants to be a rapper or a basketball player and chase the bag. Unrealistic hopes and dreams that only 1 in a million people in that group will ever become the next Nelly, the next President Barack Obama, the next Michael Jordan. Those are dreams and ideologies that don't really exist. It's a false narrative, and it will lead to a real nightmare. But educating yourself and becoming a viable citizen as a doctor, lawyer, police officer, those things are sustainable, and we need to preach those things and instill those things in our young kids today, as opposed to them raising themselves, using all of technology to be their parents and learn everything from social media. We need more human contact and humanity to make this world a better place, and we need to have a touchable, tangible, loving existence with our young people, or America is going to be in a world of trouble. And don't forget, we're having this migrant crisis that's swiping across America, where these people don't speak English, they're not up to par for the social services, educationally, and they're going to need help too. We'll be at 1 to 3 million people before you know it, and they're going to be a burden on the system. But you have kids right here in America that are not prepared to become viable adults, and that's a true concern. And so we need to look back and pay our teachers more. We need to get more people, more teachers in the business. We need to appreciate them. They're not glorified babysitters. And we need to respect the administrators, respect the teachers, and advocate that education is very important to young people. And it's not about how many rap songs you can make, or how hard you can bounce a basketball, or how far you can throw a football. We need to have these young men who want to be lawyers and agents for athletes and not just be an athlete. We're sending the wrong messages. And as I said to you, one of the pillars of a healthy moral society is having a healthy educational system. And America has turned its back on its educational system in the urban market and its teachers. Manifest your truth. This has been a Trevor Donald Experience.